Hi. So this video might be a bit discordant and chaotic. I'm going off of no notes. I'm mostly making them to keep myself accountable with my reading material since my TBR list is out of control and I'm trying desperately to read through some of what I have before I buy more. Again, it's never a guarantee, but still, it's an attempt. There is unfortunately someone having a meltdown in the hall. Happens. Um, so I recently inventoried all of my books and realized that I have a legitimate library, over 1,000 books, and I'd probably say my unread or have not read in a long time pile has reached maybe half of that. So it's time to start slowing down on the buying and picking up on the reading. My husband would definitely say I told you so. Hopefully he doesn't see these videos. We'll see. So starting my list is Lolita. I have read this before. I read it in my teens and I've reread it again recently. For obvious reasons, Lolita is a controversial book. It's a difficult book to get through. Beautiful, but difficult. The material is heartbreaking and unbelievably disturbing, not least because it's a masterclass in writing. Nabokov doesn't hide the absolute horror of what his characters are doing, of what his main character is doing, even though the language isn't entirely explicit. He doesn't use grotesque language, but the events themselves are pretty hideous. I think it's a really fascinating book, partly because of all of the literary allusions, but also the way that the narrator of the novel uses language to pull you in and make you almost sympathetic to him, even though he's a monster, almost unapologetically a monster. He does horrible things to children. And even though he professes to be in love with one person, one child, which is disgusting, he's absolutely a risk to everybody around him. So it's really a great way of looking at the way that people use language to manipulate others, gaslighting, changing the narrative, using language to soften events. There's also a underlying theme of the way that people through the novel seem to suspect something is going on between these two main characters, Humbert and Lolita, and yet they do nothing. They offer her no escape, no solace. They react by keeping their distance, by keeping their children away, by not allowing their children to be around this other child. So they just further isolate this little girl who is already going through this absolute horror. It's too real in a lot of ways, even though it's kind of a very, very literary book. It's paradoxical and it's very interesting. But I think it is a book that needs to be discussed. I'd really be interested in knowing what other people think.